Well, hello. Welcome back to my living room floor. Uh, my husband is still working from home, so he's locked in the office right now so I can film a couple videos. Today I am doing my April wrap-up. I can't believe it's already May. Like, when did that happen? But I want to talk about the 5 books that I finished in April and also the 2 that I started that I am carrying over into May. The first 2 books that I finished in April were Wedding Cake Crumble and Dying for Devil's Food. Those were the final 2, well, not, there's one more, but my library doesn't have it. They're the last 2 books that I have on hand for the Cupcake Bakery Mystery Series by Jen McKinley. I've now read, I believe it's 11 or 12 of them, and I'm pretty sure I gave them all 4 stars, and these 2 are no exception. I gave them both 4 stars. That series, if you like cozy mysteries and you like baked goods, you're gonna love that series, and I recommend you read it. Like, they get a little bit repetitive. That's why I had to take a little bit of a break in the middle of the series, because I kind of got burned. Like, I didn't want to get burned out on it, so I ended up taking a little bit of a break, but I finished strong with those last 2 in April, and now I wish I could get my hands on that last one, but it is what it is. Maybe I'll get back to it eventually. If you ask me exactly what those 2 were about, I don't really remember, but I did give them 4 stars. One of them had to do with wedding cake. I really don't remember. It's been a while. Like, I should probably look it up. So, Wedding Cake Crumble follows the Fairy Tale Cupcakes Bakery crew while they are investigating murders that surround an author's book signing. And Dying for Devil's Food revolves around a murder that happened at their high school reunion. So that was the last 2 installments of that I have my hands on. So that's all I'll be reading for that series for a while, but the whole thing was 4 stars. I really, really enjoyed the whole thing. If you're into cozy mysteries, you should definitely check it out because it's a really good series. So after that, I listened to Funny You Don't Look Autistic, A Comedian's Guide to Life on the Spectrum by Michael McCreary. This was an interesting book because he's only 22, and he actually mentions it in the book. He's like, I'm too young to be writing a memoir. But it was a memoir written by a Canadian stand-up comedian with autism. It was a really interesting look at what it's like living with autism and kind of like the things that you go through and like what goes through your mind when people kind of treat you differently because you have autism. And yeah, I just thought it was a really interesting look at that. It was a very good book. He has one thing, and this isn't, I mean, it's not a spoiler for someone's memoir, I don't know. There's one thing that he included in like the afterword of the book, like the very last little part of the book, that the whole book was very like lighthearted and kind of funny. And then this one thing at the end, I was like, why would you put that there? Like, why? But other than that, I loved it. I had a really good time with it. I actually listened to the audiobook, and it is narrated by the author. So again, when you listen to an audiobook that's narrated by like a memoir or an autobiography or something that's narrated by the author, I feel like it just adds like a little something extra. And so I really enjoyed that. Then I had my most disappointing read of the month, and also probably the year, considering it was in my 5-star predictions video, which I will follow up someday. I have one more book that I have to read for it. But that is Twice in a Blue Moon by Christina Lauren. I gave this book 3 stars, but like a really low 3 stars. I really, really wanted to love this book so much. I saw when I went to put it on my Goodreads, like currently reading, I saw all the 2-star reviews from people that I follow on Goodreads and people that I watch on BookTube, but I still held out hope that I would really love it. And I just didn't. I really didn't. It's not up to par with their other books that I've read, and like the romance just was so forced. And like the thing is, it started really strong. Like it started off so strong, and I really enjoyed the first part of it, but then the whole second part just killed it for me. I just did not like it. I didn't buy the romance. I didn't enjoy the romance. I didn't enjoy what happened. And if I was in the characters' positions, that's something that I would not get over. So I didn't really understand the romance. And just overall, it had one of my like buzzkill things. I made a video a while back called, what the heck was it? It was like my buzzwords and buzzkills, like things that I really like, and like buzzwords that will make me want to read a book, and then things that I see and make me not want to read a book. And one of the things that I don't like in books is celebrities and like following the lives of famous people. And this book has an element of that. So I was not a fan. We were already, I guess, off to a bad start. And I think that actually made it worse because when I started reading this book, it had been so long since I read the synopsis that I actually completely forgot that that was in there. And so, like, it happened and I was just like, why did I think I'd love this book? Like, why did I think this would be okay for me to read? So that was a bummer. It was a very low 3-star for me, and I just didn't really like it. It's the worst thing I read this month. And then the final book that I have to talk about that I finished in April is The Library at Mount Char by Scott Hawkins. This was one of the books that I got not necessarily recommended to me, but when I did my 100 subscriber video, I asked people to tell me what their favorite like non-hyped book was, a book that they really enjoyed but they didn't really hear a lot of people talking about. And this one was given to me by Angela over at Literature Science Alliance. And what a weird book. Like, if you watched any of my vlogs while I was reading this book, you're probably sick of hearing me say, but just what a weird book. I don't know how to explain this book without spoiling it because there's just so much going on, but at the same time, I could probably say anything I want about this book and it wouldn't be a spoiler because the book is just so weird that none of it makes sense unless you read it anyway. So, what can I say? I can say if you read the synopsis of this book on Goodreads or Amazon or any of those websites, that synopsis is not really accurate to what the book is, in my opinion. Like, they don't really reflect what I got out of the book after having read it. But you're following this girl and she is trying to find her father. And that is probably the most accurately inaccurate description I could give of this book. But yeah, it's weird. There's lions, there's a library, there's murder, there's violence and gore and torture and animal cruelty, abuse, rape. Basically, any trigger warning you could attach to a book needs to be attached to this book, and yet I loved it somehow. I really liked it. I gave this book 4 stars, and I can't accurately tell you why. Like, I can't really flesh out the reason for it. You just have to read it yourself, and either you'll love it or you'll hate it, but it just really worked for me. Something about it really worked for me, and yeah, thank you, Angela, for having me read that book. I think I already said that in one of my vlogs, but it was just so strange and it just really worked for me. Like I said, there is a lot of content warning that could go with it. There are a lot of content warnings that could go with it. So if you are interested in reading it, I would say just like, if you're sensitive to things that you read in books, I would definitely check out people's reviews first just to see if it's something that would bother you or something you'd be okay with. But yeah, overall, it was just a really weird book and I enjoyed it. That was the last thing that I finished in April, and then I just have a couple of things that I started in April that I'm not quite done with, and so they're going to carry over into May. The first one of those is Duel of Fire by Jordan Rivett. I'm reading that on my Kindle, and that was in my April TBR video. I included a few books that had been on my April 2019 TBR that I hadn't read yet, and I had up a poll, and you guys voted on which one I should pick up, and Duel of Fire won by a landslide. So I picked that up, but I picked it up at the, like right at the very end of the month because the library at Mount Char took a little bit longer than I expected it to read. So I am still working on that, but I am really enjoying it so far. So there's that. And then the final thing that I'm like, I'm so close. I'm like this close to finishing it. I'm at 90%. And that is The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. It's the second book in the Mistborn series. I am really enjoying that series. I love Sanderson. I haven't disliked anything he's written that I've read so far. I'm still scared of Stormlight, but eventually I will pick that up. I think right after I finish Mistborn, I'm going to end up picking up The Way of Kings, and I am both terrified and excited for that, but you know, I still have a book in the Mistborn series. The Well of Ascension is definitely going to be either a 4 or 5 star book for me. I can tell you that much because I am almost done with it. I'm not quite sure which it's going to end up being yet, but I am really, really enjoying it. I love being back in that world. I think I read the first one in either January or February, so it had been a while, and that's kind of like just what I needed to jump right into again because I just really love that world. I will say I do still have the gripe about the whole like metals in the stomach thing and like thinking that they just have a giant ball of like metal dust in their stomach at all times, but I mean that's just me. That's not something that affects the actual book. But yeah, so those are the 2 things that I'm still working on. So that will do it for my April wrap up. I hope you guys had good reading months in April. I hope you have some great books picked out for May, and I will see you next time. Bye.